Once a Packer, always a Packer. What team will Aaron Rodgers play on in the 2025-2026 NFL season? Hey, what do you say? What do you say? It's your favorite uncle, your sister's favorite uncle. And back again with another video on Go Pack Go All Day. Hit that like, subscribe, and or comment buttons. And what team will Aaron Rodgers land on for this upcoming season? There's all kinds of possibilities. This man is 41 years young, and he slinged it and slanged it with the Jets. But now the Jets are moving on from Aaron Rodgers. There's all kinds of possibilities. I think that he will ultimately end up on a West Coast team. I think he might be on the 49ers. They might, move on from their quarterback, Brock Purdy, or possibly go on the Raiders, maybe, possibly. But the Raiders, I think they're going to ultimately draft a young quarterback and probably throw that man in the fire somewhere. Shedeur Sanders, I guess. Or maybe he ends up on the Los Angeles Rams, because that's another West Coast team that, maybe they move on from Stafford. They move on from Stafford. They bring in Aaron Rodgers for maybe a season or two, and they trade Stafford and get some big-time players possibly on the Rams, because they got Puka Nacua, who's a really good target out there. But a friend of mine thinks that he will end up on the Indianapolis Colts.
So, if he's smart, and what it sounds like is Indianapolis Colts are going to be the ones that end up getting him. And the reason why I think Indianapolis makes the most sense is because their defense honestly keeps them in the game, which is what he didn't really have with the Jets, because the Jets were letting teams left and right score on them. But the other thing is, he's getting a younger version of Devontae Adams.
So who's that? Who's the younger version of Devontae Adams? Pittman is the younger version of Devontae Adams?
Yes, he is a good, he can grab the ball, he runs good routes. Then you got Downs, who's a good receiver. They got all the weapons there. Honestly, Indianapolis, the issue was that Richardson is not a good quarterback. He's not at all.
They got a good running game, too. You got Jonathan Taylor, who put up 1,431 yards. And like you said, the receiving core, they have three guys who have 800-plus yards catching that football.
And then the defense. The defense is not as bad as their record shows. I think a lot of the problems was that offensive efficiency that they had an issue with. But you put Rodgers with those receivers, you put them with a competitive defense, and then on top of that, that division is very wishy-washy because, he's going into a division that right now Houston wasn't really that good, but they were just good enough to beat their division. And I understand next year, Tennessee might go get a quarterback and be competitive. In all honesty, Indy is the team that literally is a quarterback away from taking the division from Houston.
Yeah, I get you.
They almost did this year.
Oh yeah, it's because they were right behind Houston. They were 8-9. They were still in it, and just kind of fell out of it towards the end of the season of making a playoff spot. Jacksonville Jaguars, I don't think they're going to be all that good, or the Tennessee Titans for a while. Just bad decisions on both those teams. Houston Texans and Colts, they're going to be the top two teams for a minute at least.
Every year, like we've always said, about every year is a little bit different because changes do happen in the offseason.
Yeah.
I think the Jags, I think there's going to be some growing pains, and they're going to still be the last one in the division. But, Tennessee, they got a new head coach. They're going to have a new quarterback, whether it's Rodgers, because that's the second destination he would be on, is the Tennessee Titans, which that makes the same amount of sense as Indy because the defense is solid.
Yeah, I don't think Anthony Richardson is the guy. I mean, Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
of course he got injured his first season. The guy's completion percentage is 47%, and then Joe Flacco comes in and nearly has more yardage in 3 less games than Richardson.
Well, and the other thing,
Yeah, I think you're right. They are just a quarterback away. They have a pretty stacked defense, pretty stacked receiving core. 3 receivers with 800 plus yards: Pierce, Pittman, and Downs.
you know, it's and then just the division itself. It's not hard for if a team goes and gets Rodgers and plugs them in and lets them play, that they could not take that division from Houston.
It seems like a good, solid landing spot.
And Indy, you know, they're facing the number 2 teams, I do believe, this year for their schedule. It's not. I honestly believe they're not in a bad spot to win a couple games outside the division.
Yeah.
And make a true run. But man, that defense. That's the reason why they're 8-9. Is that defense kept them in the game, even with the bum Flacco and the trash of Richardson.
Yeah, Kwity Paye with 8 sacks. DeForest Buckner with 6.5 sacks.
Look at the scores themselves. Like, some of those games were in the 20s, which tells you that the defense is there.
Yeah. If the defense can contain, it comes down to the offense. Can the offense get better over the offseason?
And Rodgers, I mean, look at his stats: 4,000 yards, 28 touchdowns, and 17 interceptions. A lot of those were 11 interceptions. A lot of those were because he was forcing the ball to somebody. But I honestly believe what happened with the Jets telling him they're letting him go. I mean, Rodgers was begging and pleading from what was said, and the Jets said, "Dude, you suck. Goodbye." I can see a revenge tour being in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
That division is very winnable.
Well, you look at Rodgers statistically, 3,897 passing yards. That's pretty solid, though.
Yeah.
And he didn't play the previous season, so he went a whole season without really playing and then comes back. It took him a while to pretty much warm up. The downfall of the Jets, in my honest opinion, was firing the head coach, Robert Saleh, because that destroyed the Jets' defense. They were putting up, decent offensively, but then getting crushed defensively the second they fire their head coach.
I honestly believe the problem is not just that they let go of the coach. I honestly believe it's the actual
organization.
Owner. Yeah, because the owner is literally asking his sons, what's the Madden rating on certain players? And if it's high enough, he's like, yeah, we'll trade and try to get this guy.
An Indy.
And then, and the O-line's not bad either. So it's a matter of plug a quarterback that can make the throws. It's got to have higher than 40%. Me on a couch could throw a better completion percentage than Richardson.
But if Rodgers goes to Indy, right, he's not going to be there long term. He might put a year or two. Yeah. So they might need to go out and draft a quarterback too to prepare for the future.
Here's the problem with the Colts. The Colts will be in a position that they're not going to get a first-round talent.
If the Colts pick him up, I think that'd be a good thing for the short term. Maybe this upcoming season and maybe next season, maybe they got a shot.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense for Indianapolis to go get a guy like that. Draft a later quarterback that you can develop that fits the system just right.
Yeah.
Because honestly, Tennessee, they're going to be drafting their quarterback of the future, and he's going to be plugged in right away.
Oh yeah, they're going to throw. The Tennessee Titans are going to throw their guy in the fire, pretty much. There's going to be no development. You just throw him in the fire and see how he plays.
Yeah.
The Jags might be trading away their quarterback.
No, they're
that's
talking about
possibility.
But honestly, they're going to keep Trevor Lawrence. I feel bad for Trevor Lawrence because the biggest problem is I feel like he's not being developed.
Aaron Rodgers, it's a possibility he goes to the Colts, possibly. But I think I'm a strong believer he goes to the West Coast. Either he goes to the Niners or the Rams or the Raiders. Possibility going there. I mean, yeah, the Raiders could draft a quarterback that they throw in the fire, possibly.
But here's the thing you also got to figure out, too. What is the possibility of going to the Super Bowl? If he goes to you have to make it to the playoffs first thing to go to the Super Bowl. Which division makes the most sense to go into and play for?
Yeah, I understand that aspect, but also at the same time, Rodgers is a big-time believer in going to the West Coast, I believe.
Right, but everybody in the West Coast, Rams are competitive. The Seattle Seahawks, they're in the mid.
That's a possibility. What if the Seahawks let go of Geno Smith? That's a possibility that Rodgers ends up in a Seahawks uniform. There are so many possibilities, I think.
But the system that he would have to go into, he does not benefit.
Yeah. Oh, maybe.
Whereas Steichen, definitely he would fit that system because the way that it's ran is similar to what he had in Green Bay when he had huge amount of success. So that makes sense. The Titans, it's hard for me to say because they are looking for the guy that's going to set they're trying to let go of Will Levis. And they're trying to...
That was a huge mistake. That was funny on draft day. They thought, Will Levis thought he was going to be this top pick of the bunch. And then, lo and behold, the Titans pick him up and they test him out. He had one great game, and then all of a sudden he just starts falling apart little by little every single game.
It also plays into the owner of Indianapolis's favor, too, because Indianapolis does not want a top pick. The owner does not want to be in the top 10 picks every year. He wants somebody that's going to keep him competitive and, is going to, give him a shot. But he's also not stupid. He's probably going to get one of those later round quarterbacks and make that what he does. Because Steichen has shown that he can have different quarterbacks in that system and be successful as long as they have an arm.
Yeah.
Which Richardson obviously does not have the arm or the IQ to make it work.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Rodgers is sitting there looking at all his possibilities. Does he go to the West Coast, which he'd like to be living in the West Coast, or does he try to find the team that would work for him that has already have all the players around it, just need a quarterback, which I think was what was smart with Tom Brady, right? Like when he left the Patriots, he looked at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and was like, oh, you know what? They just need a quarterback, and they're going to be,
Well,
and lo and behold, they win a Super Bowl, There's also the possibility that the Minnesota Vikings move on from Sam Darnold and pick up Aaron Rodgers and pull a full Brett Favre. Aaron Rodgers, a very good quarterback still, somewhat, got a little bit left in the tank. Minnesota Vikings got their big-time receivers, Jefferson and Addison. That's a possibility. But that's all I got to say. Hit that like and subscribe button, and go Pack Go all day.
Hey, be the hero of your own story. Subscribe to Go Pack Go all day, and see you in the next one.